Hey, and welcome back to Business Newsletter Recap. My name is Nathan Pohl. I get to run Google Ads for Tommy's Express by day, and in my spare time, I read business newsletters for fun. If this is your first time listening, the goal is to bring you the highlights of some of the top business newsletters out there in 15-minute or so episodes. Think of it as the Sportscenter Top 10 of newsletters. If you really like any of the creators or topics I mention, I always include the sign up links for the newsletters and social media profiles of the writers in the show notes. Today's episode covers a framework to help you think at different levels in a business, color psychology to improve your landing pages, and a quote from Jeff Bezos that should shape your next product or business. We're starting off the episode with another great addition from Bootstrapped Giants, a newsletter written by Jesse Pujji and Andrew Warner. They're a frequent flyer on the show, with how many great additions they drop to their subscriber base of now over 20,000 and counting. Jesse is the founder of several companies, most notably Growth Assistant, Ampush, and Ox Insights, as well as running a venture studio called Gateway X. He posts a wide range of startup content on the many lessons he's learned growing several successful businesses. I find his breakdowns and stories extremely valuable, so be sure to give him a follow. They were featured in episode 4, where they talked about interpreting sales pipeline data, and episode 7 with expert tips on negotiation. So if you like this highlight, you'll want to go back and listen to those episodes as well. Today's feature is all about your cruising altitude for a business. Jesse starts off writing about an intern of his, Michael. He was crushing it and asked for feedback on what he was doing well. And when Jesse thought about it, what made him stand out was his ability to fly well at different levels of the business and move seamlessly between them. I loved his breakdown of these levels. There are 4 that Jesse calls out: the 30,000 foot level, the 10,000 foot, the 1,000 foot, and the 100 foot levels of flying. At 30,000 feet, you're making decisions for the long haul, like selling business units or picking markets to operate in. Common flyers at this level are CEOs of giant companies and founders just starting to think of what problem they are going to solve. The 10,000 foot level is for most CEOs who are working with their executive teams. They think 1 year ahead and care about big company initiatives and performance. Managers and startup founders with small teams usually fly 1,000 feet. They directly manage the teams executing on the ground and bear the responsibility for what gets produced. And finally, the 100 foot level is where the production happens in the business. It's where the hands get dirty, building products, writing code, or working directly with customers. Jesse highlights that the best entrepreneurs and executives can fly at all levels. Steve Jobs had the vision of innovative, world-changing products, managed and directed teams, and got all the way down to obsessing over pixels at Apple. Alex Lieberman and Austin Reef printed out the day's edition of the Morning Brew and went over it line by line, on top of building a great team and eventually putting enough great people in place that they were phased out of the business. When people struggle in business, it could be because they either can't fly at a certain level where they are needed, or they don't know when to switch between each level. I certainly have my favorite levels to fly at, and I'm sure you do too. And you can probably think of bosses, colleagues, or direct reports who are amazing flyers at one level of the business, but not where they were needed most. I can think of a few right off the top of my head, which is why you need to practice. What Jesse suggests to do to get better at flying at each level starts with naming where you are. When working in an area of the business, slow down and identify how high you are flying, and if that's where you need to be at the moment. From there, you can assess if it's a level you are good at flying and what data you have to help you. Trying to fly at 30,000 feet doesn't work if you don't have a lot of knowledge about the economy. And flying at 100 feet, if you don't know how to work in Google Ads or Photoshop or Replit, is pretty difficult too. And if you work on a small team, chances are you'll need to switch levels a lot, which is why Jesse suggests practicing at each stage. Reading the Wall Street Journal can help you think at the 30,000-foot level, and reading and then, of course, applying principles from management books helps at the 10,000-foot level. At 1,000 feet, holding regular meetings with your team to identify where you can remove roadblocks might seem annoying, but can help you be more effective very quickly. And the 100-foot level is pretty obvious. Write something, code something, or learn how to use specific tools. I really love both the imagery and the practicality of this newsletter. Slowing down in my own work and thinking about which level I'm flying at has made me a better decision maker and better at prioritizing how I can upskill myself. I would highly encourage you to do the same. Quick break here. If you're listening to this show, I know that you're busy and you don't have time for fluff. You're looking for the highlights, the best of the best, the hidden gems. That's why I read Marketer Gems, a twice-weekly newsletter written by Tom Snyder. We featured editions multiple times on this podcast because they are just that good. There's no AI content or filler, just pure high-impact marketing intelligence. If you like this podcast, you're going to like this newsletter. Join me and thousands of others and subscribe now at marketergems.com. Again, that's marketergems.com. I'll have a link for you in the show notes. Now, back to the show. The next highlight of the episode is from Tom Orbach's newsletter, Tom's Marketing Ideas. Tom is the head of growth marketing at Wiz, a startup in the cybersecurity space named one of LinkedIn's top startups in the world. Tom also recently got his newsletter site to rank #1 in Google for the term marketing ideas, which is absolutely insane. So to say that his marketing ideas are pretty good would be an understatement. I loved his recent edition on color psychology, which debunks some common thought leadership and therefore instantly got my attention. Most people will look at a wheel of different colors and assign different feelings to them when it comes to branding. Green stands for growth, blue stands for trust, and white stands for perfection. This idea works great in theory if you don't consider that people all view colors differently. If you have a positive or negative experience with a color, you will subconsciously associate positive or negative things with that color, no matter what the branding of the color was supposed to convey. If you had a favorite toy that was red, you'll probably view red more favorably later in life. This has been studied extensively and is called valence theory. This means that color theory really doesn't matter as much as people think. But Tom then explains what actually matters when using colors in your branding. The first is color temperature. Colors with warmer temperatures like red, orange, and yellow feel closer to us, and the proximity creates urgency. Cool colors like green, blue, and purple feel farther away, creating environments with less pressure. So if you're looking at your CTAs, a great place to start is to use a warmer color, as long as they fit your brand. When looking at the same color, saturation can also impact how noticeable and large it feels. Tom shares a study where people looked at pictures of luggage that were the same size and were asked to pick the luggage they would need for carrying either a lot of items or a very small number of them. The only difference in the picture was how vibrant the colors looked. Brighter, darker, and bolder shades of the same colors stood out more than the lighter shades, so people naturally picked the darker ones to hold more luggage, and the lighter ones when they didn't need as much space. Darker, more saturated shades of a color can help things stand out more on a landing page for anything that you want to naturally draw attention to, or for someone to read first. The final aspect where color matters is in trust versus privacy. White and very light colors make anything on the page very visible and open, building trust, while darker backgrounds keep things more secluded, building privacy. And while a lot of websites have the option to switch between light and dark backgrounds, in general, online stores have light backgrounds to foster trust that your order will arrive and you're not getting ripped off. And services like Discord and Spotify have dark backgrounds so that your conversations with friends and embarrassing music choices in the shower stay private. I love this piece as Tom made me realize that brand colors do matter, but what matters more is temperature, saturation, and background to cut through people's natural affinity or aversion to certain shades. Take a look at a few websites and you'll start to see these principles everywhere. The final newsletter highlight of the episode comes from Contrarian Thinking, written by Codie Sanchez. If you don't know who Codie Sanchez is, you probably don't spend a lot of time on the business side of Twitter or LinkedIn. She's a former investor turned small business buyer, and she shares her lessons on buying several businesses herself through her media venture, Contrarian Thinking. She has a massive following of entrepreneurs and prospective business buyers, and she shares a ton of actionable business tips, and also her philosophical thesis for why it is so important for people to invest in small businesses. I both agree with and admire this. Today's edition shares a great quote from Jeff Bezos and Codie's advice for using it to create businesses or product lines. A lot of people spend a lot of time chasing what changes. AI, social media channels, and if you go back far enough, the internet or landline phones spurred massive new trends in how people did business. A lot of these created platforms where businesses who figured them out first could thrive. Back in the day, marketing emails had ridiculous open rates, so it didn't really matter what you sold. You could get tons of eyeballs and have a better chance of making sales than you do today, where people are now inundated with emails of all kinds in their inbox. Google and Facebook ads used to skyrocket businesses who invested in them. And while they still work well, they are not quite as effective as more competition bid up prices for placements and clicks. The quote that Codie shares in her newsletter is one that helps explain how Amazon has stayed so dominant. Jeff Bezos said this: "I frequently get this question: what's going to change in the next 10 years? And that is a very interesting question. It's a common one. I almost never get the question, what's not going to change in the next 10 years? And I submit to you that the second question is actually the more important of the two, because you can build a business strategy around things that are stable in time. In our retail business, we know that customers want low prices, and I know that's going to be true 10 years from now. They want fast delivery. They want vast selection. It's impossible to imagine a future 10 years from now where a customer comes up and says, "Jeff, I love Amazon. I just wish the prices were a little higher." Or, "I love Amazon. I just wish you'd deliver a little more slowly." The way people shop may change, the buying power of people or preferences of taste may change, but when you are building a new business or launching a new product or service, Codie emphasizes that it's best to start with the principles of society or human psychology you know are not going to change. That simple reframe helped build Amazon to what it is today. To recap our actionable takeaways from the episode, we talked about the different levels of operating in a business and how important it is to intentionally train for each one. We learned how colors actually make a difference in branding, from driving urgency, making page elements stand out, and building trust with consumers. And finally, we heard timeless advice from Jeff Bezos about basing your new business or product offering on what will not change. If you had a favorite section, please reach out. I'm trying to collect as much data as I can from listeners of the show, and I want to make it helpful for you. My contact information, as well as that of Jesse Pujji, Tom Orbach, and Codie Sanchez, are in the show notes. And if you enjoyed the show, I do say it every time, but it is 100% free to you to leave a rating on Spotify, or a thumbs up or a subscribe on YouTube, or share it with a colleague or fellow business nerd who might enjoy it. It truly means a lot to me. Thanks for listening, as always, and we will see you next time on Business Newsletter Recap.